May the 18th, 2025, and this is the People's Update, your daily dose of unfiltered news for Americans who are done with the dishonest legacy media. We break down the stories that actually matter from a perspective that you can actually relate to. Thanks for being here. All right, folks, welcome to the show. If you could, one quick like of this video would help me immensely in the algorithm. And if you value this content, please don't hesitate to subscribe. I appreciate you. First, in our lead story today, Van Jones stuns CNN by calling the Biden cover-up a crime against the Republic. Also on deck, David Hogg clashes with the DNC. Tom Homan drops a disturbing border revelation. Sebastian Gorka unloads on Comey, calling his recent Instagram post criminal. And Gavin Newsom turns his back on Los Angeles. We've got a lot to get into today, so let's get right to it. CNN commentator Van Jones made headlines this weekend after admitting that Democrats may face long-term consequences for their role in covering up former President Joe Biden's mental decline. Speaking on State of the Union, Jones said he was shocked by Biden's condition when he appeared publicly and claimed others knew and said nothing. He called it a crime against the Republic. The remarks come amid revelations in a recent book suggesting top Democrat officials and insiders were aware of Biden's cognitive deterioration for years and deliberately kept quiet. Jones added that Democrats need to look in the mirror, purge bad actors, and apologize to the American people. This wasn't just some D-list talking head. This was Van Jones, a guy who served in the Obama administration, deeply tied to the party machine. His admission? It's not a small thing, because what he's really saying is this. They knew, they lied, and they were hoping the American people would go to the ballot box unaware of the truth. Now, this was a moment of rare honesty from a man who has long played the part of the loyal partisan. And he's definitely not wrong here. But let's get real. Would he have had the courage to say this before the curtain was fully pulled back? Before ordinary Americans, not just the politically tuned in, got a good look at the doddering, confused old man behind that curtain? Unlikely. Because now it's politically convenient. Now that the narrative is shifting, now that 2028 hopefuls are distancing themselves, now the truth gets told? Well, we won't be holding our breath over here. However, it is at least a little refreshing to finally hear some truth being spoken from the Democrats. Even if too little, too late. From media confessions to party implosions, let's shift gears to the DNC, where David Hogg's war with the Democrat establishment is heating up fast. The Democratic Party is eating its own. Gun control activist and Parkland survivor David Hogg, once a rising star on the left, is now at the center of a civil war inside the DNC. This week, the DNC's Credentials Committee voted 13-2 to void the February election that made Hogg and Rep. Malcolm Kenyatta co-vice chairs of the party. The official reason? A procedural complaint about how the ballots were bundled. But come on, even Hogg admitted what everyone's thinking. He said the vote wasn't really about technicalities, it was about punishing him for doing what the Democrat establishment hates most, trying to challenge their grip on power. Last month, Hogg's group announced plans to primary so-called ineffective Democrats, a $20 million effort to reshape the party. And suddenly, the DNC rediscovers its appetite for neutrality. Neutrality. From the same party that rigs its own primaries, plays favorites, and pushes out dissenters behind closed doors. Even Hogg pointed out the double standard. The DCCC and DSCC back primary candidates all the time. Other vice chairs have endorsed in races before, no problem. But when he does it, suddenly the rule book matters. DNC Chair Ken Martin says party officers have one job, to be neutral stewards of the process. That's rich. Coming from a party that steamrolled Bernie Sanders, rewrote debate rules for Joe Biden, and cut side deals with superdelegates. Now Hogg, for all his flaws, is finding out firsthand what happens when you stop being useful to the narrative. He's gone from poster child to political problem in record time. And if that's how they treat their own, imagine how little they think of you. But while Democrats bicker over committee seats, a far darker story is playing out at the border. Tom Homan has the details. Another trafficked child rescued, and no thanks to the previous administration and their border chaos. President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, just revealed that a 14-year-old migrant girl was rescued in Texas after being trafficked by 2 adult men. And it gets worse. She had been released into the U.S. under the Biden administration's policies. This is what happens when you let ideology run your immigration system. According to Homan, this girl is just one victim among hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors who've been dumped into the country with no plan, no vetting, and no accountability. More than 500,000 unaccompanied alien children have crossed the border during Biden's term. 300,000 of them are now missing. Let that sink in. Missing. No oversight. No records. No idea where they are. And Homan isn't guessing. He says DHS has already recovered several thousand, many being used for forced labor and now sex trafficking. The 14-year-old child is now receiving care from DHS. But how many more haven't been found? How many are still out there suffering in silence because of the Biden-era border policy that valued politics over protection? The vetting process under the Biden administration? A complete failure. No fingerprints. No verified ID. The Department of Health and Human Services wasn't even tracking who was taking these kids in. And more than 233,000 of them weren't enrolled in immigration proceedings at all. This is not just incompetence. This is a humanitarian catastrophe, and the people responsible are still patting themselves on the back for being compassionate. This girl could have vanished. She could have ended up another faceless victim in a system that does not protect children. It endangers them. And when people like Homan speak up, the media doesn't want to hear it. They would rather attack the messenger than face the horror of what's actually happening. This is the cost of 4 years of an open border. This is what progressive immigration policy actually looks like. And if the Biden administration had cared even half as much about the safety of children as they did about transitioning their genders, they would have shut this down while they were in power. The legacy media is no fan of such unfiltered truth being told. But we're going to keep telling it, whether they like it or not.